You're a failure, Dad. My son sneered, laughing at my dream to open a cafe after retirement. 3 months later, with my cafe thriving, he begged for a job. Humiliated, broke, desperate. I looked into his eyes, saw his betrayal, and said one word. No, Buford's dream isn't just a cafe. It's a reckoning. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. And I don't care what you think about my age. Buford's voice cracked as he slammed the folder onto the kitchen table. Coffee sloshed from Michael's mug, spreading a dark stain across the carefully organized business documents. Michael stood, frozen halfway through, removing his jacket, briefcase still clutched in his left hand. Dad, what are you talking about? I want to open a cafe. The words tumbled out before Buford could second-guess himself. I know it sounds wild at my age, but I've been planning this for months. Look at these numbers. Weathered fingers trembled slightly as Buford spread papers across the scratched linoleum table. Profit projections, menu ideas, location scouting notes, everything he'd researched during those sleepless February nights. The folder's edges were worn from constant handling. Michael's briefcase hit the floor with a dull thud. You've completely lost your mind in your old age. This is pure madness. Madness? Buford's voice rose an octave. I've been dreaming about this my whole life. I have the money, I have the plan, and I sure have the time. Dad, you're 68 years old. People your age should be playing golf, not starting businesses. Michael picked up a financial projection sheet, scanning it with dismissive eyes. Where did you even get these ridiculous numbers? From fundamental research, real banks, real estate agents? Buford snatched the paper back. I called them all this week. Everything checks out. The kitchen fell silent except for the refrigerator's persistent hum. Michael's face shifted from confusion to something more challenging, more calculating. He pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. How much money are we talking about here? $150,000 for the loan. I'll put down 30 from my savings. Your savings? Michael's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Dad, that money needs to last you the rest of your life. What happens when this fantasy fails and you're broke? Buford felt heat rise in his chest. It won't fail. I've thought about every detail. Come on, let me show you the location. Against every instinct screaming in Michael's head, he found himself following his father to the old Buick. The drive to River Street took 12 minutes through familiar Riverside neighborhoods. Neither man spoke as they passed the elementary school, where Michael had played Little League, the corner market where Buford still bought his weekly groceries. The abandoned storefront sat between a laundromat and a tax preparation office. Paint peeled from its wooden facade like sunburned skin. Windows reflected nothing but their own uncertain faces staring back. This is it, Buford announced, pulling keys from his pocket. The realtor gave me these for the week. Michael followed his father through the narrow doorway. Inside, dust motes danced in afternoon light, streaming through cracked windows. The space smelled of disuse and broken dreams. Perfect size for 30 tables, Buford said, his voice echoing off bare walls. Kitchen space in the back, storage upstairs. I already talked to contractors about renovations. Michael walked the perimeter, noting water stains on the ceiling, outlets that hadn't been updated since the 1980s, flooring that would need complete replacement. Each step revealed another expensive problem. Dad, this place is a disaster. You'd spend your entire loan just making it habitable. Every business starts somewhere. Ray Kroc didn't begin with a palace. Ray Kroc wasn't almost 70 when he started. Michael's patience finally snapped. This isn't some romantic movie where the elderly dreamer succeeds against all odds. This is real life where restaurants fail every day, where people lose everything chasing impossible dreams. Buford's hands clenched into fists. So, I should give up. Sit in my recliner waiting to die. You should be practical. Think about your future. Think about your family. What happens to Mom's memory when you blow through everything we've worked to preserve? The mention of Maria hit like a physical blow. Buford's wife had passed 3 years ago, leaving behind a house full of memories. and a husband who'd forgotten how to dream. Until now. Don't you dare bring your mother into this, Buford whispered. She would have supported me. She always did. Mom was practical. She would have talked sense into you. Michael gestured wildly at the deteriorating space around them. This isn't a business plan. It's a disastrous gamble for our family's financial security. They drove back in toxic silence. Michael's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he turned into his father's driveway. The engine ticketed as it cooled, marking time like a countdown to explosion. Dad, I'm saying this because I love you. Forget this cafe nonsense. Enjoy your retirement, travel, take up fishing, do something appropriate for your age. Suitable for my age? Buford's voice was barely audible. You mean wait quietly until I'm dead so you can inherit what's left? That's not what I meant, and you know it. Is it? Buford turned in his seat, studying his son's face. You're a failure. You'll never succeed. Don't you dare waste my entire inheritance on some stupid cafe. The words hung between them like a blade. Michael's mouth opened, then closed, his face flushed red, then pale. Get out of my house, Buford said quietly, and don't come back until you apologize. Dad, I get out. Michael sat for a moment longer, then opened the car door. He strolled to his own vehicle, never looking back. Buford watched from his kitchen window as taillights disappeared into gathering February dusk. The business plan lay scattered across his table, coffee-stained but intact. Dreams were more resilient than family relationships. The sound of Michael's engine faded into the distance. Buford closed the door and turned the deadbolt with more force than necessary. His hand remained on the cool metal for several heartbeats. Listening to his own breathing in the sudden quiet, he gathered the scattered papers from the kitchen table, smoothing each coffee-stained page with careful fingers. Every number, every projection represented hours of research and planning. Michael's dismissal couldn't erase the work that had gone into this dream. The living room felt cavernous as Buford settled into his worn leather recliner. The chair had been Maria's choice 20 years ago, selected for its comfort during his long days at the factory. Now it cradled him like an old friend while he reached for the photo albums stacked on the side table. Faded pictures told stories he'd almost forgotten. There he was at 25, wearing a white apron in the community college culinary program. Maria stood beside him, radiant and pregnant with Michael, her hand resting on her rounded belly. That was 1983, the year everything changed. He'd been 2 semesters away from graduating when Maria's morning sickness turned severe. The doctor bills piled up while her part-time job became impossible. Someone had to provide stability, and that someone was him. I'll go back to school later, he'd promised Maria as he took the factory job. After the baby comes, after we get settled, later never came. There were diapers to buy, a house to afford, college funds to start. Dreams of opening his own restaurant got packed away like seasonal decorations brought out occasionally, but never used. 43 years at the factory. 43 years of precision machinery and scheduled breaks and steady paychecks that built the life Michael now wanted to protect. Every sacrifice had been worth it, or so Buford had told himself. The album slipped from his fingers as sleep finally claimed him. He woke at 6:15 a.m. to birds chattering outside his bedroom window. February sunlight streamed through curtains. Maria had sewn herself, casting familiar shadows across hardwood floors. Coffee percolated while Buford showered and dressed in clean jeans and his favorite flannel shirt. The morning routine felt different somehow, charged with possibility instead of mere habit. Today would be about action, not dreams deferred. He pulled the yellow pages from the kitchen drawer and spread them beside his cooling breakfast. Riverside Community Bank appeared first on his list, followed by 3 other local institutions: the Small Business Administration office downtown, 2 real estate companies that specialized in commercial properties. Good morning, Riverside Community Bank. This is Patricia speaking. Hello, Patricia. My name is Buford Ruiz. I want to schedule an appointment to discuss a business loan. Certainly, Mr. Ruiz. What type of business are you looking to start? A cafe, American comfort food with some Mexican influences. The words felt natural, confident. I have a complete business plan ready for review. Patricia's keyboard clicked softly in the background. I have an opening next Thursday morning at 9:30 with our commercial lending officer, Ms. Chen. Would that work for you? Perfect. Buford wrote the appointment in his calendar with steady handwriting. What documentation should I bring? The conversation lasted 15 minutes. Tax returns from the last 3 years, bank statements, credit reports, detailed financial projections. Buford took notes in the margins of his business plan, creating a checklist for success. The second call went to the Small Business Administration. A recorded message provided information about loan guarantees, startup assistance programs, and free counseling services. Buford wrote down 3 phone numbers and 2 website addresses. Real estate came next. The agent who'd given him keys to the River Street property answered on the first ring. Mr. Johnson, this is Buford Ruiz. We looked at the cafe space yesterday. Of course. Have you decided to move forward? I'm working on financing. Can you send me the complete property details and recent comparable sales in that area? I'll email everything this afternoon. The owner is motivated to sell, especially to someone with serious restaurant experience. Buford didn't correct the assumption about his experience. 43 years of factory work had taught him about deadlines, quality control, and customer satisfaction. Those skills would translate. By noon, his notebook contained a timeline stretching from February through August, loan approval by early March, property purchase by mid-March, renovations through June, staff hiring in July, grand opening in August. Each milestone had specific tasks and deadlines. The plan felt real now, substantial, not a retirement fantasy, but a legitimate business venture with measurable goals and realistic projections. Michael's words echoed in his memory, but they carried less sting in daylight. I'll show you, son, who the absolute failure is here, Buford murmured, closing the notebook. He walked to his bedroom and opened the closet Maria had organized so carefully. His best suit hung in protective plastic, navy blue with barely visible pinstripes. It had been purchased for Michael's college graduation and worn to Maria's funeral. Now it would serve a happier purpose. The suit fit better than expected. 3 years of grief had stolen 15 lbs from his frame, but proper tailoring still showed beneath the looser cut. He adjusted the tie in the bathroom mirror, practicing the confident smile he'd wear to the bank. Before Ruiz, the entrepreneur, he said to himself. The title felt foreign, but not impossible. Thursday morning couldn't come fast enough, but first he had 3 more days of preparation. 3 more days to ensure nothing could derail his late-blooming dream. Michael's absence felt like freedom instead of abandonment. The afternoon sun slanted through kitchen windows as Buford returned to his business plan. Every page needed review. Every number double-checked. Success would require perfection. And perfection demanded time he finally had to give. Dreams deferred, he'd learned, weren't necessarily dreams denied. Sometimes they were just dreams waiting for the right moment to bloom. 5 days of preparation had led to this moment. Buford adjusted his tie one final time before walking into Riverside Community Bank. The lobby smelled of fresh flowers and ambition, its marble floors polished to mirror brightness. He carried his father's old leather briefcase, now filled with documents that could change everything. Mr. Ruiz. A woman in her mid-40s approached with an extended hand. I'm Patricia Chen, commercial lending officer. Thank you for coming in. Ms. Chen's office reflected professional success without ostentation. Diplomas from UC Riverside and certificates from banking associations lined one wall. Her desk held a computer, neat stacks of papers, and a coffee mug declaring world's best mom. Please have a seat. Ms. Chen gestured toward a comfortable chair across from her desk. I understand you're interested in starting a cafe. That's correct. Buford opened his briefcase with steady hands. I've prepared a comprehensive business plan for your review, and the following 30 minutes were spent on a careful presentation. Buford explained his concept for Buford's Dream, a neighborhood cafe serving American comfort food with Mexican influences. He detailed his target market, competitive analysis, and revenue projections with the confidence of someone who'd researched every angle. Ms. Chen listened attentively, taking notes and asking pointed questions about startup costs, operating expenses, and break-even analysis. Her pen scratched across yellow legal paper, recording details that would determine his future. "Your financial projections appear realistic," she said, reviewing his spreadsheets. "What amount are you looking to borrow?" $150,000. I'll contribute $30,000 from personal savings as a down payment. And what collateral can you offer? My house. Current market value is approximately $200,000 with no existing mortgage. Buford slid the property assessment across her desk. "I've owned it outright for 12 years. Ms. Chen's eyebrows rose slightly. "Mr. Ruiz, at your age, this is quite a risky venture. Most lenders prefer to see borrowers with longer earning potential ahead of them. I've dreamed about this my whole life. It's now or never." Buford met her gaze directly. "I have 43 years of work experience, excellent credit, and more motivation than most people half my age." "Your credit history is amazing," she confirmed, consulting her computer screen. 820 credit score, no late payments, no outstanding debt except monthly utilities, but will need substantial collateral for a loan this size. The house covers that requirement. Additionally, I receive a steady pension income of $3,200 per month. Ms. Chen pulled out a loan application packet 3 and thick. "If you're serious about proceeding, we'll need these forms completed along with tax returns from the last 3 years, bank statements from all accounts, and proof of pension income." Buford reached into his briefcase and withdrew a manila folder. "Everything's right here. I brought extra copies." For the next hour, they reviewed each document methodically. Tax returns showing modest but consistent income. Bank statements revealing a man who lived below his means and saved religiously. Pension, verification from his 43 years at the factory. "This is extensive preparation," Ms. Chen admitted. "Most applicants require multiple meetings to gather this documentation. I believe in being prepared." Buford signed his name on the preliminary application with a steady hand. "When can I expect a decision?" "Assuming the property appraisal confirms your stated value, we should have an answer within 10 to 14 business days. The loan committee meets every Tuesday morning." Ms. Chen walked him to the lobby, shaking hands with genuine warmth. "Mr. Ruiz, I'll be honest. This application will receive serious consideration. Your financial stability and preparation are impressive." Outside in the parking lot, Buford sat in his Buick for several minutes, letting the reality sink in. The preliminary approval letter felt substantial in his hands even though final approval remained weeks away. But Ms. Chen's encouragement had been real, not polite dismissal. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed the real estate agent's number. "Mr. Johnson, this is Buford. Ruiz, I just left the bank with preliminary loan approval. Can we schedule another viewing of the River Street property this afternoon?" "Absolutely. How does 3 OR sound?" "Perfect. And Mr. Johnson, I'm ready to make an offer." Buford started the engine and pulled out of the bank parking lot. In his rear view mirror, he could see Ms. Chen's office window on the second floor. She was probably already entering his information into the system, beginning the process that would transform his dream into reality. The radio played soft jazz as he drove through downtown Riverside toward home. Every building, every street, corner looked different now, like a neighborhood where he might soon belong as a business owner instead of just a retiree. At the next red light, he reached for his phone again. Michael's number sat in his contacts list unchanged since their argument 5 days ago. His finger hovered over the call button. Not yet. First the loan approval, then the property purchase, then the renovations. Michael would see the results before hearing more words. Action spoke louder than apologies or explanations. The light turned green, and Buford drove toward his future with the windows down and hope riding shotgun. Dreams, he was learning, had their own timeline, and his was beginning to tick. 8 days had passed since the bank meeting. The loan approval letter felt warm in Buford's pocket as he stood before the weathered storefront that would soon be his. Linda Martinez, the real estate agent, checked her watch and smiled professionally. "Right on time, Mr. Ruiz. Let's make this official." Buford nodded, adjusting his gray suit jacket. This moment had consumed his thoughts for over a week. But standing here now, keys about to change hands. Reality felt surreal. "This building has real potential," Linda said, unlocking the front door. "The previous owner ran an antique shop here for 15 years. Good bones, solid foundation. Sunlight streamed through dirty windows, illuminating dust particles that danced like celebrations in the still air. Buford walked the perimeter again, seeing past the current disrepair to the vision he'd nurtured for months. Electrical was updated. In 2018, Linda continued, opening circuit panels to show modern wiring. Plumbing works fine, though you'll want commercial-grade fixtures for restaurant use. The upstairs storage area adds significant value. Buford ran his fingers along the worn counter where cash registers had once rung up sales of forgotten treasures. Soon this space would serve coffee and comfort food to neighbors who'd become his customers. I see opportunity here, not ruins, he said more to himself than to Linda. She spread closing documents across a makeshift table they'd set up near the front window. Purchase agreement, deed transfer, insurance verification, utility connection, authorizations. Each signature brought him closer to ownership. Final purchase price is $89,000, Linda confirmed, reviewing the paperwork one last time. Your loan covers this amount plus closing costs. Everything appears in order. Buford signed his name with steady hands, watching as nearly 7 decades of dreams crystallized into legal reality. The pen felt substantial, important, like a tool that could reshape the future. Congratulations, you're now the owner. Linda handed him a brass key ring with 3 keys attached: front door, back entrance, and upstairs storage. The building is officially yours. Metal felt cold against his palm, but the weight carried warmth that spread through his chest. These keys unlocked more than doors. They opened possibilities he'd thought lost forever. Any advice for a new business, owner? Buford asked as Linda packed her documents. Start with a solid plan and stay flexible. Riverside needs more locally owned restaurants. The community will support you if you serve them well. After Linda left, Buford stood alone in his Café for the first time as its legal owner. Silence wrapped around him like an old blanket, comfortable and familiar. Every scuff mark on the floor, every crack in the walls belonged to him now. He walked to the back kitchen area, measuring space with his footsteps. Commercial refrigerator, there, grill against that wall, prep stations running parallel to the windows. The mental blueprint he'd carried for months finally had a physical address. His phone buzzed with a text from the bank confirming the transaction. The account balance reflected the loan disbursement, making everything official in digital reality, as well as in legal documents. Outside, traffic hummed along River Street as afternoon shoppers moved between businesses. Soon they'd smell coffee brewing and fresh food cooking from his establishment. The thought sent electricity through his tired bones. Dust motes continued their eternal dance in window light, but now they performed in Buford's space, under his ownership, within his dream made manifest. Tomorrow would bring contractors, permits, and the 1,000 details required to transform potential into profit. But today, this moment, belonged to quiet satisfaction and the solid feel of keys in his weathered hand. Keys clinked, dreams crystallized his place. 5 days of solitary work had established a routine. Buford arrived each morning with coffee and cleaning supplies, lost in the rhythm of reclaiming his space. Measuring tape stretched across the floor marked future table arrangements, while dust cloths revealed original wood grain beneath years of neglect. He was kneeling beside the front window, scraping old paint from the frame, when familiar footsteps approached on the sidewalk outside. Buford looked up through street glass to see Michael's silhouette, shoulders rigid with anger, even from a distance. The front door banged open without ceremony. Dad, you've lost your mind. Cancel this deal. Michael stood in the doorway wearing his business suit like armor, briefcase clutched in white knuckles. His face carried the same fury from their February argument, but amplified by betrayal and disbelief. Hello, son. Buford rose slowly, joints protesting after hours on concrete floors. I wasn't expecting you. I saw the bank statements on your kitchen counter. $89,000. You actually bought this disaster. Cleaning supplies scattered as Michael kicked a bucket across the floor. Soapy water spread in dark patterns across concrete, reflecting overhead lights like broken promises. This is my choice, son. You won't stop me. Your choice? Michael's voice cracked with disbelief. You've mortgaged your entire future on some fantasy. What happens when this fails? Where will you live when the bank takes the house? Buford set down his scraper and faced his son directly. 5 days of productive work had strengthened his resolve, not weakened it. Every cleaned surface, every measured space, proved the dream's validity. I'm not failing. Look around. Real progress. Real plans. This cafe will succeed. Success? Michael gestured wildly at peeling paint and broken fixtures. You're 68 years old trying to compete with established restaurants. You have no experience running the business. I have 43 years of work experience and more determination than most people half my age. Determination doesn't pay rent when customers don't come. Determination doesn't cover insurance when someone gets food poisoning. The harsh words echoed off bare walls, carrying weight that made both men pause. Michael's breathing was rapid, almost panicked, while Buford remained steady despite the verbal assault. You're scared, Buford said quietly. Scared I might actually succeed without your permission. I'm afraid you'll destroy everything Mom and you built together. This house, your savings, your security, all wasted on childish dreams. Don't bring your mother into this again. Buford's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Maria would have supported my happiness rather than trying to control it. Michael pulled out his phone and began dialing. I'm calling Dr. Rodriguez. He could talk sense into you about age-appropriate behavior. Put that phone away. Someone needs to intervene before you ruin everything. Buford crossed the space between them in 3 quick steps, snatching the phone from Michael's hand. His son's eyes widened with surprise at the sudden movement. This conversation is over. Leave my property. Your property? Michael laughed bitterly. This condemned building that's going to bankrupt you? My property that's going to prove every doubt you've ever had about me wrong. They stared at each other across a gulf that seemed to widen with each exchanged word. Michael straightened his tie and picked up his briefcase with exaggerated dignity. You'll see what happens to your crazy plan. When this fantasy collapses, don't expect me to bail you out. I wouldn't dream of asking. Michael walked to the door, then turned back for one final shot. Mom would be ashamed of what you've become. The words hit like physical blows, but Buford didn't flinch. Your mother would be proud. I finally found the courage to chase my dreams instead of just surviving. Car doors slammed outside. Engine noise faded into afternoon traffic. Buford stood alone again, surrounded by cleaning supplies, and the echo of harsh words that couldn't diminish the solid reality of ownership. He picked up the scattered bucket and resumed scraping paint from window frames. Work, he'd learned, was the best antidote to family disappointment. Tomorrow would bring contractors and permits. Success would be his best argument. The next morning, Buford arrived at the cafe before sunrise, Michael's threats echoing in his ears like a challenge he was determined to meet. City Hall opened at 8, and he planned to be first in line for permits that would transform his dream into legal reality. March 6th marked the beginning of controlled chaos. Permit applications spread across his kitchen table at home each evening, while construction dust coated his clothes each day. Progress became measurable in completed forms and cleared inspection checkpoints. Next window, please. The clerk at City Hall had processed dozens of applications this week, but none with Buford's methodical preparation. Every form was completed in careful handwriting, every supporting document organized in labeled folders. Food service license, business operation permit, health department approval. Buford handed over the packet he'd assembled over 3 research, heavy days, fire safety certification, and signage permits. 2 weeks of bureaucratic navigation yielded a manila envelope thick with approved documentation. Each stamp and signature brought opening day closer to reality, while proving to skeptics that preparation mattered more than age. Contractors arrived the following Monday. Frank Rodriguez had renovated 12 restaurants in Riverside over 20 years, and his crew understood the specific requirements of commercial kitchens. Electrical needs upgrading for your equipment load, Frank explained, reviewing Buford's layout plans. Commercial refrigeration, gas lines for the grill, proper ventilation for health codes. Everything must be perfect. This is my dream. We'll Make it perfect, Mr. Ruiz. Timeline looks realistic for your August opening. Daily supervision became Buford's new routine. He arrived each morning to unlock doors for work crews, then monitored progress with the attention to detail that 43 years in manufacturing had ingrained. Quality control mattered whether building machinery or building dreams. The space transformed gradually. New electrical panels supported commercial equipment, while updated plumbing handled multiple sink stations. Fresh paint and warm colors, deep reds and golden yellows, replaced decades of fading neutrals. Looking for work? A woman approached during the third week while Buford swept construction debris from the newly installed flooring. She was mid-30s, professionally dressed, but with worry lines around her eyes. Actually, I'm hiring Ana Gonzalez. She extended her hand. I heard you're opening a restaurant. Buford Ruiz, tell me about your experience. Anna's 8 years in food service were evident in her discussions of menu timing, customer flow, and inventory management. More importantly, her motivation was crystal clear. I need this job. I have children to support. No pleading, just honest. Necessity stated with dignity. When can you start training? The following week brought Tommy Brown, 22 and fresh from culinary school, with enthusiasm that reminded Buford of his own youthful ambitions. I've always wanted to work in restaurant business. Tommy's energy filled the space as he described his formal training and eagerness to learn the practical side of food service. By the end of the month, equipment installation was complete. Commercial refrigerators hummed efficiently while the 6-burner gas range awaited its first orders. Dining room tables and chairs arrived from a restaurant supply company, transforming the space from construction site to actual cafe. Menu development sessions filled evening hours. Buford's vision of comfort food with Mexican influences took shape through collaboration with Tommy's formal training and Anna's practical experience, chile verde enchiladas with cornbread. Tommy suggested reviewing their prototype recipes. Classic meatloaf with cilantro mashed potatoes. Familiar flavors with unexpected touches. Pricing needs to work for families, Anna added pragmatically. Riverside isn't Beverly Hills. People want quality they can afford. Buford stood in the transformed space on March 31st, surrounded by his small team and months of accumulated progress. The opening day schedule on their newly installed whiteboard showed April 15th as the target date. Everything was ready except the customers. Opening day arrived with the same spring sunshine that had blessed every preparation day before it. By 7 a.m., Buford's dream stood ready for its first customers. Fresh flowers bloomed in window boxes, while the aroma of Tommy's experimental breakfast pastries drifted through spotless dining rooms. I checked the coffee machine for the 20th time that morning. Every detail had to be perfect. The gleaming counter surfaces, properly aligned salt shakers, menus positioned at precise angles on each table. Anna arrived wearing her new uniform, her face bright with professional excitement, despite the underlying worry I recognized in her eyes. Everything looks incredible, Mr. Ruiz. She tied her apron with practiced efficiency. First days are always challenging, but we're ready. Tommy emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of sample breakfast items, his enthusiasm infectious even at this early hour. Steam rose from fresh biscuits and perfectly scrambled eggs, while bacon strips lay in neat rows like soldiers prepared for battle. Tomorrow will be different, you'll see, he announced, though I hadn't expressed any doubts. Aloud, his culinary school optimism remained undaunted by the reality of empty tables stretching before us. By 8 the morning rush I'd anticipated became the morning wait. Anna wiped counters that didn't need cleaning while Tommy rearranged food, displays that were already perfect. I stood at the front window watching pedestrians pass without even glancing at our carefully designed signage. Maybe they don't know we're open yet, Anna suggested, but her voice carried less conviction than her words. 9 brought the same traffic patterns, people hurrying to work with their own coffee cups, students heading to campus with backpacks full of everything except hunger for our food. The cash register remained silent as a tomb. Tommy kept cooking, determined to have fresh options available when customers finally arrived. Pancakes, omelets, hash browns, a full breakfast spread that would feed 30 people. The smell alone should have drawn crowds, But River Street remained indifferent to our efforts. The lunch crowd will be different, I told myself, checking the wall clock for the 100th time. Business people need convenient meals. Families want affordable options. Anna nodded supportively, but I caught her glancing toward the empty tip jar with increasing frequency. She had children depending on this job, bills that wouldn't wait for customer discovery of our existence. 11 org arrived with lunch preparations, but no lunch customers. Tommy had prepared enough food for a busy restaurant, but we served exactly 0 meals. The pristine dining room mocked our preparations with its perfect emptiness. Maybe Michael was right after all. The words escaped before I could stop them. Don't say that, Anna replied firmly. Every new business takes time to build clientele. Rome wasn't built in a day, but Rome's builders probably had customers, I thought bitterly. They probably didn't invest their life savings in dreams that nobody wanted to share. 2 marked the start of the afternoon shift, or would have if we had needed one. Instead, we 3 stood in our beautiful empty cafe like actors performing for an audience that never bought tickets. The coffee grew cold in its cars while lunch specials dried under heat lamps. Should we close early? Tommy asked quietly, his morning enthusiasm finally dimmed by reality. No. The word came out harsher than intended. We stay open until 6 as planned. Professional businesses maintain consistent hours, but professionalism felt hollow when profits were non-existent and the purpose seemed misguided. Every dollar spent on ingredients, every hour of preparation time, every dream invested in this venture appeared wasted on a community that had no interest in Buford's dream. 6 cars arrived like a death sentence. I locked the front door while Anna and Tommy cleaned equipment that had barely been used. The day's receipts totaled exactly $0 and 0. Same time tomorrow? Anna asked, though uncertainty colored her professional demeanor. Same time tomorrow, I confirmed, hoping my voice carried more confidence than I felt. Standing outside me cafe, looking back through windows at empty tables and unused chairs, I wondered if Michael's harsh predictions were about to prove prophetic. Perhaps dreams deferred really were dreams denied. The keys felt heavier in my hand than they had on purchase day. The next morning arrived with the same sunshine, but Buford's enthusiasm had dimmed to dutiful determination. I unlocked He Cafe doors with less fanfare and more resignation than yesterday's grand opening ceremony. Anna arrived precisely on time, despite yesterday's discouraging results. Her loyalty meant everything, especially when my own confidence was shaken. Tommy bounded through the back entrance with renewed energy, convinced that yesterday was merely unfortunate timing. Second day jitters, he announced cheerfully. Happens to everyone. I wanted to share his optimism, but empty cash registers spoke louder than positive thinking. We prepared for another day of beautiful food serving no one. Another day of proving Michael's warnings correct. At 8:15, our first customer appeared, finally opened. We've been waiting. An elderly gentleman pushed through our front door, followed by his wife, who moved with careful steps but genuine excitement. Good morning, I managed, surprised by how rusty my customer service voice sounded after yesterday's silence. Coffee, for 2, please, and whatever smells so delicious back there. The woman settled into a corner booth while her husband approached the counter with obvious pleasure. Tommy appeared from the kitchen carrying plates of fresh breakfast items, his morning preparations finally finding their intended purpose. Anna poured coffee with steady hands, professional demeanor restored by actual customers to serve. Before I could process this development, more people entered. A young mother with 2 small children, 3 business people discussing contracts, overshared newspapers, a college student claiming the window seat with her laptop and textbooks. Excuse me. I answered the ringing phone while Anna handled orders, and Tommy managed increasing kitchen demands. Buford's dream. How can I help you? Oh, I'm so sorry, I mixed up the dates in the advertising. Sarah Johnson, our marketing coordinator, sounded mortified. I accidentally printed May 24th instead of May 23rd in all the promotional materials. Yesterday was supposed to be your soft opening, but everyone thought today was the real launch. Relief flooded through me like summer rain. Nothing was wrong with our concept, our food, or our location. A simple printing error had cost us opening day customers, but hadn't damaged our fundamental business model. "Thank you for calling," I said, watching Anna skillfully manage 3 tables while Tommy sent out plates of steaming food. "We're handling the situation." By tensios, every table was occupied. Conversations filled our dining room with the sounds I'd imagined for months. Satisfied customers discussing our menu, families sharing meals, business people planning their days over our coffee. "Order up," Tommy called from the kitchen, his formal training finally meeting real-world demand. Plates moved from preparation to service with increasing efficiency, while our cash register recorded transaction after transaction. Anna moved between tables with practiced grace, refilling coffee cups and clearing plates, while customers complimented both food quality and service. Tips accumulated in her jar like validation of everything we'd worked to create. "Best eggs Benedict in Riverside," one customer announced to his dining companion. "This place is going to be popular." Popular felt like an understatement. By noon, we had a waiting list. Customers stood outside our door, willing to wait for tables in a restaurant that yesterday couldn't attract a single patron. "We need more staff," Anna whispered during a brief lull between orders. "We need everything," I replied, watching Tommy manage 6 different breakfast orders simultaneously while maintaining quality and presentation standards. The lunch rush merged with the extended breakfast service, bringing steady streams of new customers until the afternoon. Students discovered our student-friendly prices, while retirees appreciated our comfortable atmosphere and generous portions. At closing time, I counted receipts with hands that trembled from exhaustion rather than anxiety. Our first real day had generated enough revenue to cover operating costs, plus a modest profit. More importantly, customer comments suggested repeat business was virtually guaranteed. "Same time tomorrow," Anna sat. But this time her question carried excitement rather than uncertainty. "Same time tomorrow," I confirmed, meaning every word. Standing in my successful cafe, surrounded by evidence of community acceptance and business viability, I finally understood that dreams weren't about proving skeptics wrong. They were about creating something valuable that people actually wanted. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight belonged to celebration. 18 days of steady success had transformed the cafe from hopeful experiment to neighborhood institution. Buford had fallen into a comfortable rhythm of morning prep, lunch, rush management, and evening cleanup that felt as natural as breathing. Local newspaper coverage and positive online reviews brought steady streams of new customers, while regulars established predictable patterns. The elderly couple claimed their corner booth each morning. College students filled afternoon hours with study sessions and coffee refills. Business lunches generated reliable midday revenue. I was wiping down the counter during our busiest lunch period when Michael appeared in the doorway. Customers filled every table while Anna took orders, and Tommy managed kitchen operations with increasing confidence. Success surrounded us like armor. "Dad." Michael's voice cut through cheerful restaurant noise with surgical precision. He wore his formal business suit despite the heat, carrying a leather briefcase that suggested this wasn't a social visit. "Michael," I continued cleaning while acknowledging his presence. "We're busy right now. I can see that." His tone carried disapproval, rather than pride. "Actually, that's why I'm here." He approached the counter where I worked, briefcase held like a weapon. Customers at nearby tables sensed tension, their conversations growing quieter as they watched our interaction unfold. "You need a psychological evaluation." Michael placed a thick manila folder on my clean counter, with deliberate force. "These documents require your signature." Inside the folder, official letterhead proclaimed legal intentions in formal language, along with competency assessment forms, financial decision-making evaluations, and medical examination requirements, all of which questioned my mental capacity to manage my own affairs. What is this? But I already knew, already felt the ground shifting beneath feet that had found solid footing in this successful business. Protection for the family estate. You've demonstrated poor judgment in financial matters, and these assessments will provide legal foundation for intervention. Customer conversations stopped entirely now. Anna paused mid-order while Tommy appeared in the kitchen doorway, drawn by unfamiliar tension in our normally comfortable space. "You want to take everything away, from me." The words came out louder than intended, carrying across dining, rooms filled with witnesses to our family warfare. "I want to prevent further financial irresponsibility. This restaurant proves you're incapable of rational decision-making. This restaurant proves I'm more capable than you ever believed." Michael gestured dismissively at customers and staff at evidence of success that contradicted every prediction he'd made about inevitable failure. Temporary luck doesn't erase fundamental incompetence. When this venture collapses, and it will, you'll have nothing left to protect you. The legal documents felt heavy in my hands, weighted with implications that extended beyond family disagreement into territory of legal warfare. Competency evaluations could lead to conservatorship proceedings. Financial control transferred to relatives who considered business ownership evidence of mental decline. "I will never agree to this. You've crossed the line. You don't have to agree. These assessments can be court-ordered based on demonstrated financial recklessness." Anna approached carefully, clearly uncomfortable witnessing family conflict in her workplace but concerned about my distress. Customers began leaving, unwilling to remain during increasingly personal confrontation. "Mr. Ruiz." Anna's voice carried gentle inquiry about whether she should intervene or retreat. "It's fine, Anna. My son was leaving. This isn't over, Dad. You'll realize I'm trying to protect you when bankruptcy proceedings begin." Michael closed his briefcase with sharp clicks that echoed like gunshots in our suddenly quiet dining room. He walked toward the door while customers and staff watched with uncomfortable fascination. "Your mother would be ashamed of what you've become," I called after him, using words designed to wound. "Mom would have stopped this madness before it started," he replied without turning around. The door closed behind him with finality that felt like declaration of war. Legal documents spread across my counter while customers resumed conversations in subdued tones. Anna began cleaning abandoned tables while Tommy retreated to kitchen safety. Standing behind my successful restaurant's counter, surrounded by proof of business competence and community value, I felt the weight of legal threats that could destroy everything I'd built. Success made me a more dangerous target than failure ever had. Documents slapped down, customers stared, dreams threatened. The legal papers Michael left behind became kindling for Buford's determination. Within days of the confrontation, 3 new investors approached him about expansion opportunities they had heard discussed at Chamber of Commerce meetings. Downtown Riverside offered prime real estate that had intimidated me 6 months earlier. Now armed with proven success and solid financial projections, I negotiated a lease on a corner location with triple the foot traffic of River Street. The space costs more, but corporate lunch crowds would justify premium pricing. How did you achieve such remarkable success? Jennifer Walsh from the Riverside Business Journal leaned forward with her recorder, genuinely interested in my unexpected story. "The secret lies in dreams paired with determination," I replied, surprised by how natural these interviews had become. Age doesn't diminish vision, it refines it. Anna had earned promotion to assistant manager, coordinating between both locations while Tommy developed our catering menu for local offices. 6 new employees brought energy and skills that transformed our operation from family restaurant to legitimate business empire. The downtown opening attracted city council members, local celebrities, and business leaders who, 6 months earlier, wouldn't have known my name. Ribbon-cutting ceremonies felt surreal for someone who'd once been dismissed as an incompetent dreamer. "You've inspired all of us to believe in possibilities," Anna said during our staff meeting, reviewing financial reports that showed monthly revenue growth of 40%. "Seeing you succeed gives everyone hope." Media attention brought recognition beyond Riverside, Senior Entrepreneur of the Year, nominations, speaking invitations at local colleges, requests to mentor other aspiring business owners over 60. My story became proof that retirement could mean a new beginning rather than an end. The original location maintained its neighborhood charm while downtown catered to professional crowds seeking quality meals during busy workdays. Different menus, different atmospheres, but consistent standards that built reputation across diverse customer bases. Financial projections showed loan repayment ahead of schedule, with profit supporting expansion into catering services that local businesses eagerly embraced. Success bred confidence that bred further success in cycles I'd never imagined possible. Standing before microphones at the Riverside Chamber Luncheon, accepting recognition for business achievement, I reflected on the journey from Michael's dismissive laughter to community celebration. Vindication tasted sweeter than any menu item we'd ever served. "This is just the beginning," I told the applauding audience. "Dreams don't have expiration dates, they have activation dates." The evening news featured our story as inspiration for senior citizens considering late-life career changes. Phone calls came from retirees across California seeking advice about pursuing postponed ambitions. August arrived with summer heat and unprecedented success. Both locations operated at capacity while catering requests exceeded our ability to fulfill them. Staff meetings focused on sustainable growth rather than survival concerns. Reviewing financial reports in my original Café office, I noticed familiar movement in the corner booth. Michael sat hunched over a single coffee cup, wearing clothes that looked cheaper than his usual business attire. He stared at his hands instead of the documents that had once made him so angry. How long had he been watching? The familiar silhouette in the corner booth made Buford's pen freeze mid-calculation. Michael sat hunched over a single coffee cup, staring at his hands instead of the financial documents that had once made him so angry. I set down my pen and studied my son's appearance. Gone was the expensive business suit replaced by casual clothes that suggested financial constraints. His shoulders curved inward with defeat, while fingers traced nervous patterns on the worn table surface. Michael. I didn't move from my desk, letting him choose whether to approach or flee. "Dad." He looked up briefly, then returned attention to his coffee. "Busy as always, I see." "Business requires attention," I gestured at spreadsheets showing revenue from both locations. "Success doesn't maintain itself." "No, it doesn't." His voice carried none of the aggressive confidence from our last encounter. "Congratulations on the expansion. Downtown location looks impressive. You've been watching, hard to miss the media coverage. Local senior builds restaurant empire. Quite the headline." We sat in uncomfortable silence while afternoon light shifted through windows he'd once threatened to take away through legal manipulation. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "I was fired for trying to have you declared incompetent." The words emerged without preamble, as if he'd been rehearsing them. "Corporate investigation found I'd violated policy by using company resources for personal legal matters." I nodded without surprise. "Actions have consequences." 6. Weeks without income, behind on mortgage payments, kids' school expenses piling up. Sarah had to find work after years of staying home. Each admission cost him physical effort. Difficult situation. I kept my voice neutral, offering neither sympathy nor judgment. I lost everything because of my stupidity. Michael finally met my eyes directly. "Everything I tried to protect from your reckless dreams disappeared because I couldn't accept your right to pursue them." The afternoon lull between lunch and dinner rushes left us essentially alone. Anna worked quietly at the front counter while Tommy prepared for evening service, both pretending not to hear our conversation. "You inflicted the most significant damage on yourself," I said quietly. "I merely proved you wrong about my capabilities." "More than proved. You built something remarkable." He gestured at the bustling success surrounding us. "Something I tried to destroy out of fear and control. Fear makes people act against their own interests. Fear and arrogance." Michael's laugh carried bitter recognition. "I was so sure you'd fail that I sabotaged my own career, trying to prevent what turned out to be your most tremendous success." The weight of unspoken requests hung between us like fog. Michael needed help. That much was obvious. Whether he'd directly ask remained uncertain, as did my response if he found the courage. "The children miss their grandfather," he said softly. "They don't understand why we stopped visiting. Children shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes. No, they shouldn't." Michael stood slowly. Coffee barely touched. "Let's get back to your work." He walked toward the door with apparent reluctance, pausing at the threshold to look back. Questions hung in his eyes. Unasked pleas for forgiveness, employment, financial assistance, all the things his pride still prevented him from voicing directly. I returned to my spreadsheets without offering what he couldn't bring himself to request. 15 minutes later, the door chimed again. 15 minutes after Michael left, the cafe door chimed again. Buford didn't need to look up from his papers to know. His son had returned to finish the conversation they'd both been avoiding. "Dad." Michael's voice carried resigned determination. Could we talk properly?" I closed my financial reports and gestured toward the chair across from my desk. This time he sat down instead of hovering near exits like a guilty teenager. "I need to ask you something directly." Michael's hands trembled slightly as he spoke. "I know I have no right after everything I've done, but you need help." "Yes." The admission deflates him further. "Please give me any job, even washing dishes, minimum wage, night shifts, whatever you can offer. I'm desperate." I studied his face, seeing genuine humility for the first time in our adult relationship. The arrogant business executive had been replaced by a desperate father, facing consequences of his own actions. "You want to work here in the restaurant you called my suicide mission? I want to work anywhere you'll have me. I understand food service from watching your success. I'm willing to learn any position that doesn't require public interaction. Why should I trust you?" I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the reversal of power dynamics. "You tried to have me declared mentally incompetent. You used legal threats as weapons against your own father." "Because I was wrong about everything." Michael's voice cracked with emotion. "Wrong about your abilities, wrong about the business, mistaken about what family should mean. Being bad doesn't erase damage done. No, it doesn't." He stared at his hands again. "But I'm hoping mercy might." The afternoon shadows lengthened while considered his request. Around us, the cafe hummed with quiet efficiency. Clean dishes appropriately, stacked, fresh coffee brewing, tomorrow's prep work beginning, all evidence of competence he'd once questioned. "I cannot forget all the damage you caused me." My voice remained steady. Final. The legal threats, the public humiliation, the attempts to steal my independence and dignity. "Dad, please. You called me a failure who would never succeed. You threatened everything I'd worked to build." I stood walking to the window overlooking the success he'd tried to prevent. "Now you know what it means to be called a failure." Michael's shoulders sagged with understanding. "You're saying no. I'm saying justice has been served." I turned back to face him. "You destroyed your own career trying to destroy mine. You lost your financial security attacking mine. The consequences you're experiencing are entirely of your own making. What about forgiveness? What about family? Family loyalty works both ways. You showed me none when I needed your support, so I'll show you none now that you need mine." Michael stood slowly, accepting what we both knew was a permanent answer. No appeals, no future reconsiderations, no hope for reconciliation through employment or financial assistance. "I understand." His voice was hollow but dignified. "I brought this on myself." "Yes, you did." He walked toward the door for the final time, pausing only to look back at the thriving business that represented everything he'd once scorned and now desperately needed access to. "For what it's worth, I'm genuinely proud of what you've accomplished. It's worth very little coming this late." Michael nodded and pushed through the door into the August evening. I watched through the window as he walked to his car, a cheaper model than his previous luxury vehicle. Another consequence of choices that had backfired spectacularly. Standing alone in my successful cafe, surrounded by the tangible proof of dreams achieved despite family opposition, I felt the deep satisfaction of justice delivered through consequences rather than revenge. Some wounds to family trust cannot be healed by apologies or desperation. The most significant failures are often those we inflict upon ourselves through pride and disrespect for others' dreams. Request made, answer given, justice served. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.